Greetings, everybody. How are you doing on this Wednesday evening? I am back again doing another Conversations with Fathers interview. This makes 6 dads in 3 days, and we will do our final two tomorrow. Right now, I'm about to be joined by Mr. Timothy Williams, and he is going to give us his fatherhood experience. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., I will be speaking with Wise Intelligent of Poor Righteous Teachers. We changed the time because life be out here happening, y'all. So tomorrow, if you guys remember Rock This Funky Joint and all the hits from Poor Righteous Teachers, as well as the things that Wise Intelligent is doing now, you want to tune in at 3 p.m. And then at 6:30 p.m., I will be speaking with Eddie Fairley. But right now, we have Timothy Williams and his perspective as a father. So we're going to dive right into this conversation. It looks like everybody is just coming through so easy here. It's coming, Timothy. Thanks for telling me. But I think it's coming. It's saying that it's adding you. It said you declined it. Oh, you be saying no, no, no when it's really yeah, yeah, yeah. I need you to say yes. Okay. All right. We're going to try this again. Don't hit the decline button. Come through, Timothy. I see it says it's adding you. It's doing its little Facebook Live thing right there. We're going to have this conversation about fatherhood because, again, y'all, we can't do this without one another. Oh, there's Timothy with his little one. How y'all doing?
Hey, what's going on? Hey,
Mine's ready to get into this conversation.
hey,
Hey, little man, how are you?
Good.
What's your name?
Timothy Williams.
Oh, you're little Tim. Okay. All right. All right. So is he going to join this discussion?
no, he just wanted to say
He
hi.
wanted
I
to
told him
say
I was
hi.
doing
Okay.
a live. Yeah, he just wanted to say hi. He about to go play the video game, so
All
he,
right. All right. Well, I appreciate you saying hi. All right. That's what's up. That is what's
Right.
up. Fatherhood in action. I love it. I love it. So how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. I'm enjoying having these conversations with all these phenomenal fathers. So now you are in the hot seat. Just playing.
Uh,
You are in a great seat to
yeah,
be in. We're going to have a really, really fun and informative and inspiring conversation. So I'm going to get right.
absolutely, absolutely.
I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to need all your information, all your beeswax. I need you to give me your name, your age. I need your marital status, how many children you have, their ages, and their gender. We need all your information. Just put it out there like that.
All right, Timothy Williams. I'm 41. I'm not married. Uh, I have a daughter. My daughter is 17. She's about to graduate Friday. And I have a son who y'all just saw who's 12,
Okay.
going to the seventh grade.
Thank you for the full disclosure. Now I'm putting your fatherhood profile together because always when I do this, I usually have a panel, but now that I'm doing individual conversations this year, I I need full disclosure because different men and women are going to be able to relate to different situations. So that's why I'm getting all up in your business. So I would like to ask you, do
Now,
your children have the same mothers? Do they have this?
no, they have is two different mothers.
Okay, okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm getting all up in the business for a reason because we want people to be able to relate. I've talked to all these different dads with different experiences, and you have an experience right here, right now, that's going to resonate with a lot of people and certain people in particular. So, first question I got to
Right.
ask you, Timothy, is what was your relationship like with your father growing up, and how did that influence your parenting style as a dad?
Um, I didn't have a relationship with my father growing up, even though what's crazy is we stayed in the same neighborhood.
Wow.
I didn't have a yeah, stayed in the Park Place area of Norfolk. Um, but I didn't have a relationship with him, and it if anything, it pushed me to make sure that it pushed me to be there for my kids that much more because he wasn't there. And I know with him being absent, how it affected me. So it made me that much more conscious of how, you know what I mean, how much I wanted to be there for my children.
All right, now I'm gonna say before we go any further, you have some supporters right here already from the start. You got Deron
Absolutely.
Flood and Clifton Hatchett and Dion Showtime. All of them are like rooting for you right now. So you got some support in the building. Just want to let you know that.
Oh yeah.
Now, off of what you
Big up.
said, I
Big up.
find that to be something powerful. And all the men I have interviewed who said they didn't have fathers in their lives, that's basically what they said. And my question that I always want to ask is, what do you feel? So that usually typically goes one of two ways. When men say they didn't have a father in their lives, they repeat the cycle and they say because they didn't have a model, that's what caused them to not be able to do it. And then you have men such as yourself who say, because I didn't have, it propelled me to do more. What do you think it was in you that made you go in that direction versus the other?
Um, wow. I think one of the first things was one of the biggest things, because the crazy thing about it is I because of the simple fact that my dad wasn't there, I would follow in his footsteps. I thought that I was destined to repeat the cycle. I thought that you know what I mean, just because he wasn't there in my life. And one of the biggest things for me was my grandmother and my mom. Uh, my grandmother would have did she would have put me out the house. She would have disowned me, or whatever the case may be, because that's something that they didn't tolerate. You know, between her and my mom, it was like, you not if you big enough to make them, you big enough to take care of them. And like I said, because of the simple fact that I didn't want them to experience the hardships of not having a father there, you know what I mean, in their life. I didn't want them to go through the same thing. So it was it was like it was something in me. It was like, listen, I'm not gonna slip up. I'm not gonna do the same thing. I'm not gonna repeat the cycle because they don't deserve that. If anything, if they don't deserve anything else, they deserve to be able to not have an excuse for saying, hey, my daddy wasn't there. They will never be able to say that.
Awesome.
So if anything, it was just a fire in me to say, if beyond everything else, if I fail at anything, I won't fail at being a father.
That's great. That's beautiful. That is wonderful to hear. And I also hear, so you said you had accountability from your grandmother, and your mother, from the women in your life. They held you accountable.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they were real hands on. Like just they were right up in your face, because at the end of the day, you're not gonna just, you know what I mean, have a kid and not take care of them and think that you're gonna come and be a part of the family, and you know what I mean, and not be accountable for what you did.
Here's what
My
you
mom would
not
have
gonna
said
do.
something. Right. They didn't, and listen, and they didn't sugarcoat anything. It was right up in your face. They'll tell you how it is, and you can take it or leave it, and you can go. You know, and that's just what it was. So it really prompted me to really put myself out there, and really, and it also, what it did was it built the confidence in me. You know what I mean, as well, to realize that I could be a great father. That, you know what I mean, I could be a great father. So with them being accountable, you know what I mean, and then my sisters as well, because I had nieces. I had my oldest niece was born at the before my daughter was born. So my sister, I was able to keep my sister's daughter, or whatever the case may be, and so it was. I had a bunch of women around me that kept me accountable.
Awesome. That's great. That is great. And shout out to those women and for you for having the strength to break a cycle, because that's never
Right.
easy. When people break family or generational cycles and curses. So I find it remarkable when people tell stories and they were able to do that, because it takes a special kind of strength to be able to do that. Now I have Clifton saying the video
Absolutely.
is frozen. So for people who are tuning in right now, if the video is frozen or is not frozen, can you let me know? Can you say is frozen, not frozen, so we can make sure that you guys are able to follow along with us, or if you're not, we can make the adjustments that need to be made. Please let us know if you can hear us. So that was great. That was great. A lot of jewels to unpack there, Timothy. Not okay. We got a not frozen. All right. So Clifton, I don't know what's going on. Check your bars because I want you to come back with us. Okay. But we got other people saying that it's showing it's frozen. It's not frozen. So we're gonna keep moving forward and hope you can join us. So the next thing I want to ask you is, what are some of the challenges that you have faced as a father? What are some of the most notable challenges throughout your fatherhood journey?
Uh, I'm gonna tell you the biggest, probably one of the biggest challenges was having kids out of wedlock. Not you know what I mean, two different households or whatever the case may be. That was probably the biggest challenge for me, is because I had a desire to want to be around my kids every day. So um, I wanted to partake in the homework. I wanted to know, you know what I mean, how they were sleeping because, when they were little, I just created that bond. You know what I mean? I wanted to be around them and stuff like that. So having to take them, back to their moms, that was it was a big challenge for me. You know what I mean? In doing that, you know what I mean? I remember when my daughter was younger, it was a couple of times she's crying because she wanted to stay with daddy. You know what I mean? So having to take her and stuff like that, that was one challenge. And then also another challenge, um, not to, get too much into it, but another challenge was, with my daughter and her mom, we're just on two different pages. And because we're on two different pages, it has created a tensious environment. A lot of, you know what I mean? It created a real aggressive environment where it wasn't necessarily a co-parenting environment. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I can say that I had to deal with in parenting, and just having to, and also because I have a daughter, so I couldn't do things the same way that I would with a son. So I couldn't come at her with the same type of oomph, you know what I mean, that I would if I with my son or whatever. So I had to be a little more mild mannered or whatever the case may be. So that's probably some of the things that I had to deal with.
Those are great things for this conversation because, like I said, the point is it's gonna resonate and people are gonna be able to relate. So I appreciate your transparency, and I want to go back and ask you a few questions about that, and just to your level of comfort, if you don't mind answering. The first one, you said the challenge being having your children out of wedlock, and you would have preferred to be able to be in the household with them. So and
Right.
and I can even say somewhat out this question can go to both of the thing two of the first things, the first two things you named, your daughter's mom not being on the same page and the type of
That's
tension that created. Do you have
right.
any advice? Let's say you were talking to some 16-year-olds or 18 to 21-year-old men, considering those things that you just, or boys and young men, what would you say to them? Because what did you learn from that?
I think one of the biggest things that I learned was like to not give up, um, to keep as a father, to not give up. You know what I mean? To the same rights that she has is the same rights that I have. You know,
But let me
like
let
for
me
the
hold on.
first 2 years.
Suppose, because I don't think I made
Go
my
ahead.
question clear. Suppose you were talking to some
Go ahead.
young men who were not they're not fathers yet. And
They're not
so,
fathers yet.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Let me, because you're answering something good that I'm probably going to ask later. But this is
Okay.
specifically
Okay. Got it.
to if they were not fathers yet, and you haven't gone through that experience, and you know that they haven't started this journey yet, but this is something that could possibly end up being difficult for them, what guidance would you offer?
Jeez, that's
You thought this
oh.
was gonna be simple.
Listen, I saw all the rest of the interviews, and I thought you was gonna take it a little light on me, but I think the advice, who I think the advice that I probably would give, to truthfully be honest, would possibly to I guess safe sex is the guy is kind of the thing, as far as, because I know, you know what I mean, it, don't put yourself in that position, you know what I mean, because it's a difficult position to be in, and everybody mentally can't deal with, you know what I mean, that position. So the biggest thing that I probably, the advice that I would give them: continue to live your life. If you have the control, you know what I mean, you have the control over, you know what I mean, what you're doing or whatever the case may be. So make the best decision, you know what I mean, that you can for you and your future, because it, at the end of the day, situations like this could be a hindrance as well. So don't put yourself in this position to hinder anything that you got going forward, you know what I mean, in your life. So if anything, I would say, don't get in it until you're ready to, as far as fatherhood, don't get in it until you're actually ready and you know that that other person, y'all ready to do that.
Okay. So I'm gonna push the envelope a little further. I'm gonna ask you, as a woman to a man, do you think that it's fair to say to young boys that anybody that you sleep with, you got to consider the fact that you could possibly have a child with them, and you would have to be aware, think of the consequences of that. Because a lot of times
Absolutely.
people will, well, that's not realistic, and boys and men are gonna do blah blah blah. But I mean, the consequences are realistic, and they will last for a lifetime to a certain extent. So, is that a fair thing to say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is definitely fair. And I think it's something that, I think it's one of those things that we kind of give the males an excuse, you know what I mean? Because we're males and we say, okay, well, we supposed to be out there soiling our oats or doing whatever the case may be, and we're not thinking about the consequences. So every female, if you know what I mean, a young man is out there, every female, that is that possibility. So before you know what I mean, decide to lay with this young lady, you got to think about the consequences that come after it, because you might not be ready to deal with that type of situation. So yeah, that's definitely a fair assessment, and I think it's something that we need to continuously push.
I agree, and I'm kind of going. I don't know what it is about you. What are you the number 6 interview? I just, maybe it's the number, but I don't know. But I'm gonna kind of put you in the hot seat a little more.
Come
This
on,
this
come on
just
with
kind of
this.
this kind of makes
I'm
me
ready.
think
I'm
about
ready.
something else too. That I wonder if men say to their sons or to other young men. Do you think it's fair to say, as you're laying down with these women, with these young ladies, the way, whether it's right or not, that a reality could be the way you treat this person, if you end up being in a fatherhood situation with this person, that it may be a reflection on how you end up getting treated in that fatherhood situation, whether it's fair or not, a reality.
Uh,
Because let me say exactly what I'm talking about here. If
okay,
you're
go ahead.
running game and you just out there doing whatever and lying and doing all kind of things, and then you get that young lady pregnant and she's upset and mad and she thought y'all were together, and yeah, and then you like, is it a strong possibility that now you might end up in a hostile situation, and she is the custodial parent of your child and she hates you?
Absolutely, absolutely. Those, like you said, is you get what you put out. At the end of the day, you get what you put out. So if you're gonna run game or you gonna, you know what I mean, play and somebody ends up pregnant or whatever the case may be, it's gonna come back on you 10 times harder because that woman might have been feeling like, hey, we were starting something, we were building something, or whatever the case may be, and now you ready to just leave now that I'm pregnant. So she's gonna have some aggression, which rightfully so, she's gonna have some aggression because of, I guess, the facade that you put on, you know what I mean, for that young lady. So yeah, that's rightfully so. You know what I mean? So you, at the end of the day, I think that we have to teach our young men, and not even just young men, older men, just men, period. That, you know what I mean, it's certain things like this stuff can come back to you, that we have to be accountable for who we lay with or whatever the case may be.
And both parties do. You know, there's a
Right,
conversation to be had with our daughters and with our sons and with grown women and grown men, and both parties have to be held accountable. I do think though that sometimes that element that I just mentioned right there is not one that's discussed. Like we tend to have the conversation with the girls a lot more than we
right.
have them with the boys, and so we all need to be accountable for our actions, and we all should do a better job of trying to move with integrity and putting that within our youth as well. I think that it's realistic. If it's just that people don't do it and hold the young people in the community to the standard. But I'm gonna take you off that.
Oh, listen, I'm good with the hot seat.
Okay.
I'm ready for the hot
Okay,
seat.
he's ready for the hot seat. He said it, y'all. I
Yeah, I'm
didn't.
ready for the hot
Okay, okay. But I'm gonna let me see what I want to ask you. Here. Well, I asked you about the challenges. What are some of the greatest fatherhood experiences that you've had so far?
Uh, honestly, that the first time my daughter said dada,
Oh,
the very first time that my daughter said dada, like I can't even explain it. You know, I can't even explain how it felt to hear her say dada, and or for her to hear her say I love you dada, or whatever the case may be. Like those moments are like priceless. Like those are the moments that I'll never forget. Those are the things that I'll never forget. And I think another moment was I was able to see my son born.
oh wow.
And I think that was probably one of the best experience. I like, it was so surreal. You know, it was a surreal moment. I got to see him come out, and like it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And just to be a part of that, just to be able to see that, and to say that you know what I mean. I've been there from the beginning since you was born, for real, real. It was a blessing to honestly see that. And I think one more moment was my son was 4. I'll never forget this. My son was he was maybe like 3 or 4 years old, and we were in the vehicle. Me, him, and my daughter. We was in the vehicle and we was driving. So we were playing around. My son was copying me. So he was copying me, trying to play around. He was copying me or whatever the case may be. So I looked in the back seat and I said to my son, I said, "Man, who you think you is?" I said, "Who do you think you are?" And he paused for a minute. And my son at 4 years old, he said, "Daddy, I'm you.
Oh,
He was like, I'm a better version of you." And that was the coolest thing that that was the coolest thing that he could say, because I always try to tell my kids that my job is to make sure that you guys are better than me, to make sure that you guys make better decisions than me. It's not a competition thing. I just want you to be better than me and not have to deal with the things that I had to deal with. You know what I mean? If anything, give me some new problems or whatever. Don't stumble over my old problems. So yeah, that was the coolest thing.
oh, those are great moments. And again, I appreciate your transparency. It's really good for people to see Black men being open, being vulnerable. That hearing a brother say these types of things about his children and remembering that, because I'm all about shattering the narrative that other people created for us, and us realizing
Right.
that it is imperative that we control our own narrative. And this is a part of the narrative and the fabric of the Black community, Black fathers, and the love that they have for their children. So I appreciate that. Those were really great moments.
Absolutely.
Some woman is watching right now saying, "Oh," so thank you for that. Um, let me see. I saw you post something interesting. I'm gonna veer off my questions right now and go something specifically that I saw from you one time. You did a post on Facebook, I believe, about a co-parenting situation that you have with a I guess with the a man that one of your children's mother must be in a relationship with.
Yeah, you talking her husband?
Yes, yes, because I don't know this, but I didn't know if it was
Yeah,
boyfriend, husband, or
yeah.
whatever. You care to elaborate, because that is something that people struggle with a lot, and I also thought that was a very powerful post to see coming from
Oh,
men. So you want to fill us in on that
right.
a little, just a little bit?
A- Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, I guess if anything,
Is this your
shout
daughter or
out to
your
my son's.
son? Your
This is my son's mother, Keisha. This is my son's mother. Shout out to her because before anything, the crazy thing is my relationship or my bond with my son, I attribute a lot of it to her because at the end of the day, she pushes and makes sure that I'm in the loop. You know what I mean? My son lives with, you know what I mean? He lives with her. We co-parent really well together, or whatever the case may be. But she always makes sure that he communicates with me, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. She makes sure that, you know what I mean, I'm in a loop, that I'm not behind or whatever. So it's definitely, I always attribute a lot of me and my son's success to his mother.
awesome. That's
Um,
great.
but also, you know what I mean. Like I said, she got married. I think maybe 3 years ago or whatever the case. She got married 3 years ago. I met her husband before they got married and stuff like that because of the simple fact he's gonna be around my son. And really great guy. Like really, really great guy. I couldn't ask for a better guy to co-parent with. I went to the wedding, um, because my son was in the wedding, went to the wedding and everything else. And the crazy thing is all of us just co-parent well. He's called me sometimes, like if my son acting up, he'll call me and let me know, hey, my son doing this or whatever the case may be. So it is really a community. You know what I mean? It's really a village around my son where it's, you know what I mean, he and it's just a big community around him. You know what I mean? Because everybody puts all feelings to the side. You know what I mean? Egos are to the side. It's like what's in the best interest of TJ, my son. So and it's the greatest. It's uh probably one of the greatest things that I can experience. Like you don't want to, co-parenting and on that type of level, being able to communicate with the mom and her husband, and I communicate with his grandmother on his stepdad's side. So it's kind of like one big happy family, but it's also one big village. You know what I mean? And it's a bunch of resources for my son. And the thing that I love about it, my son is so much of a. The thing that I love is the way that my son looks at it. My son, I had talked to my son before his mom had got married. And I was like, so how you feel about everything or whatever the case may be? And my son, he said, Dad, I love it because that's more birthday gifts and Christmas gifts for me at the end of the day. So he definitely it's a like to be in this situation is awesome. It's awesome. And like I said, his her husband, Marcus, like I said, good guy. He's there just as much as I'm there. You know what I mean, for my son. He's there, you know what I mean? So it ain't like I said, it's no ego thing. It's like, what's in the best interest of this kid?
So I absolutely love that. Like all the feels right now. Like that is just a phenomenal thing. And a recurring theme has been it takes a village to raise a child with all of these interviews. And shout out and much love to you, your son's mother and her husband and the grandparents and all of that for creating a village and for being mature adults and putting the child first in the situation. And that's just a beautiful thing because the response that your son gave you probably could have been very different if the adults had been
Absolutely.
very different. So you guys have just enveloped him in love and guidance and maturity. And this is a
Right.
black family. You know, like two black
Absolutely.
men and a black man and a black woman who used to be in a relationship and they are maturely co-parenting and their parents and spouses and everything are getting on. Like this is a part of the black community. This is a part of it. Okay. This is what you get when we tell our own narrative. So you pass by people like this possibly a lot, but you just don't know.
Right.
And we see love and hip hop and whatever on television or whatever. But that's why I'm here to make sure we control our own narrative. So thank you so much for sharing that. That was really beautiful. That's resonating with somebody. That's gonna make somebody go and have a conversation with somebody that they need to have. That's wonderful. Um,
Absolutely.
let me see. I'm gonna run through these comments here real quickly. Jatoria says, I like that. Give me some new problems. Don't stumble over my old ones. Your cousin Tamika here is like super proud of you. She says you're father of the year. Sean Peanut said, well, Sean, why am I saying here? He said that is huge, the whole co-parenting aspect. So, and Latre Myrick says, awesome. She's so proud. The next thing I want
Absolutely.
to ask you, are there any specific challenges, strategies, or philosophies that you have based on the gender of your children? So you have a boy and a girl. So I said any specific challenges, strategies, or philosophies that you have based on gender
Based off of gender.
of your children.
Um, like I said before, with my daughter, I try to be a little, I'm a little easier with my daughter. I try to be a little easier with my daughter. One of the things that one of the biggest things was I I never beat my daughter. Now, she never did anything to merit me beating her. So I think I popped her maybe one time when she was maybe like 2 years old, and I think I started crying when I popped her, or whatever the case may be. So after that, I didn't hit her. But the philosophy for me with not putting I always told my daughter, I said, if your daddy doesn't put his hands on you, you should never allow a man to put his hands on you. If I'm not, you know what I mean. So whatever, if anything, take, you know what I mean, the take what I'm doing to you and make sure that you carry that over. Don't let anybody disrespect you, calling you I'm not doing that, and I'm the one. You know what I mean. You a part of me. So if anything, please don't let anybody else do it. With my son, I'm a little bit more aggressive, and the reason why I'm more aggressive with my son to a certain degree, and it's not one of those things where it's like, well, you shouldn't be crying or whatever the case may be. It's more of, listen, I need you to be at your because you're a black male. You know what I mean? I need you to understand that there's a target on your back. And I'm not saying that there isn't a target on women back, but I know as a black male, I can only tell from myself there's going to be a bigger target on my son's back. And I always try to tell him, and I tell both of my kids, if you're going to do something, do it 200,000%. You know what I mean? Don't leave anything, you know what I mean, for anybody to settle. If you're gonna do it, be the best at it. You know what I mean? Be the best at it. And like I said, for him, my son get beatings every now and then, or I make him do push-ups or, or something of that nature. But like I said, because of the simple fact I know how hard it is to be a black male now, I just want him to be careful, and I want him to always be aware, especially of his surroundings when he goes out with his mom. I tell him, when he goes out with his mom, he got his brothers and stuff like that. Be aware, because people doing crazy things. You know what I mean? So as a male, you got to be aware of those things with anybody that you go out with, because anything can happen. So that's pretty much it. And then I try to make sure, um, especially like I do, I try to do, what I mean, daddy daughter dates with my daughter every now and again, or whatever the case may be. Just to to spend that time with her, because of the simple fact that we're in two different households as well. So just spending that time with your kids. And I ask the hard questions too. So, and I think that's one of the biggest things. I don't sugarcoat anything. I ask the hard questions, about boys and everything else. And it's not being nosy. I just want to know. And I want her to be able to understand that, hey, you can tell me if need be. You know what I mean? But if you don't talk to me, talk to somebody.
That's great. That's great. So my next question is, how has fatherhood changed you?
Um, I think fatherhood, I think is made me more patient. Is made me a lot more patient, but it's also made me look at the word perfection totally differently than what I've looked at it before, because I think a lot of the times everybody is trying to be this perfect person or whatever the case may be. And I think for myself, I've changed, what I mean, my own narrative, because I'm not trying to be perfect because I don't believe in perfection, but I do believe in improvement. I believe in constantly improving. And the thing is, with my kids and being a father, that's one of the things that I'm realizing, that hey, you might not get it right today, but try to get it right tomorrow. You know what I mean? And I'm still making mistakes, you know what I mean, even as we speak. But is one of those things where you can improve upon it and do better than what you did the day before. So I think, if anything, fatherhood has really changed, you know what I mean, made me more patient, but it's made me also understand that, hey, you can improve and you're good enough to improve. You're good enough to do this. You know what I mean? You ain't lagging behind because you don't have this or you don't have that. You're good enough for your kids and for you to be in their life.
That's great. That's great. And it's an important thing, a realization to come to, and for you to have that conversation where other men can hear it. Because I remember, in my quest for trying to find mentors for some of my babies, that one of the things I heard, even just in a mentorship capacity, was that a lot of men felt they were inadequate to be a mentor. And that could translate
Right.
over to what people are dealing with internally, where they could feel that way about being a father, which is going to lead into my next question. What words do you have for men who are not active in their children's lives?
Uh, to get active. Like, I can't say it any other way, but just to get whatever you got to do to get into your kid's life. At the end of the day, it's about spending that time or whatever the case may be. And if you're not in your kid's life, you are missing out. You know what I mean? On a great part of life. There's no way. The crazy thing, you have to be totally like cold hearted to not want to have a child out here and not participate in their life. You know what I mean? You have to have a real cold heart. Like, you just don't have no feeling whatsoever. So if the thing is, if you're not doing it, just go ahead and do it. Give them a call. Even if you start off slow, there's always that opportunity. There's time to, you know what I mean, to get in your kid's life, regardless of whatever point you're at. You know what I mean? Don't make the thing is, don't make excuses, and don't allow for anybody else to stop you from doing it. You know what I mean? I think for myself, one of the biggest things was, like I said, as we for the first 2 years of my daughter's life, I was in court. I'm talking about every other month. I was in court every other month. And the thing was, I said to myself is, money does not mean more to me than my daughter. You know what I mean? Money. So whatever has to be done, I'm gonna come to court every single time. If y'all letting her do it, and y'all sending this papers, then I'm gonna come to court. You know what I mean? Because my kids deserve it. You know, my daughter deserved for me to be there, and I wanted to be there. I yearned to see them grow. Being able to see that child grow and to mature is you can't replace it with anything. I don't care if you win 1,000,000 championships. I don't care if you got $1,000,000. That can never replace seeing that child grow up and be the best person that they can possibly be. So the advice that I would give: get in your kid's life. I don't care what age they are, you know, because the crazy thing is, even when I was 24, and not to go off track, when I was 24, when my daughter was first born, I still tried to have a relationship with my dad. I still tried to pursue a relationship with him, to let him know, like, the you know, the gate isn't completely closed at this point in time, you know, so I'm giving you an opportunity. So like I said, the advice, you know what I mean, that I would give is to go and create that opportunity, you know, make amends with that kid, you know what I mean, let them know that you're available to them. And most kids, at the end of the day, because all I wanted from my dad, I didn't want money. All I wanted was the availability. That's all that I wanted, was just to be, I wanted you to be available to me. When my mama got on my nerves, or I got on my mama nerves, I just wanted to be able to say, hey, Dad, can you come pick me up? So it was just the time. It was about availability. So to the fathers that ain't in their kids' life, man, step up to the plate, because you're missing a part of you.
I think that's really great advice, and I think something that was touched on in one of the other conversations I had with a father was, if you're not in your child's life and you need to be re-entering into their life, you have to be realistic about the fact that the lack of you being there has affected the people who have been there as well. And whether
Right.
it's right or not, initially when you come back around from the child and those people, there may be some frustration, but you have to be willing to
Absolutely.
work for the long haul and to be accountable for the fact of what your absence created, the frustration and the hurt and the pain that it created, and just be willing to stay the course. And if your goal is to be in your children's lives, then you got to endure, because a lot of you said you were in court back and forth. I had Show was on earlier today talking about being in court for teen years,
Right.
um, and other challenges that men have faced. So that's one. If it's not court, it could just be that there could be some resentment and hostility from the children and possibly the people who have been taking care of them. But if you're really committed, then you gotta, get yourself ready spiritually, mentally, physically, all of the health wise, all of those things, to go and do something that's gonna prove to be the greatest reward in your life versus, had you gone the other way and not done it.
Right. And I think one of the biggest things, I'm gonna tell you one of the greatest things that I probably did, like, because I remember, a lot of the times, I know for us men, we have this thing where we keep a lot of stuff bottled up and we don't know how to express it, or whatever the case may be. I know boxing did a great deal of allowing me to get the frustration out, or whatever the case may be. But I sought out counsel. Like, I went to go see a counselor, and that probably was the greatest thing in the world for me, was going to have somebody sit in, like, therapy and talk to me and me talk to them, but them not, you know what I mean, know anything about me, and and vice versa. I think it was the greatest thing, probably one of the greatest things that I did, was seek out counsel, you know what I mean, from somebody else, to actually get a a a real clear look at myself and my situation, to really analyze it totally. And I think a lot of the times, you know, as men, we only scratch the surface with analyzing who we are. And because we only scratch the surface, that's why we still holding on to resentment. We still holding on to grudges. we still holding on to a lot of things because we ain't getting to like the root of everything that is causing the pain and heartache for us. You know what I mean? Because we don't want to be looked at a certain type of way. So me seeking out that counsel, man, that junk, it was mind blowing. I'm talking about it was crazy. Like it was such a release. You the release was so mind boggling. Like you never would have thought that type of release. It was like a detoxification. It was like a detox for like my mind, body, and everything else. And you know what I mean? I went to go see him, I think I was going to see him maybe like 6 to 8 months, probably like twice a month or whatever the case may be. And it was great. I loved it. I like the crazy thing was I had started hitting them up, you know what I mean, just for some more sessions, you know what I mean, just because I was like, this is a daily, you know what I mean, because I wanted to evolve and grow daily. So it was kind of like one of those things where it was like, I need this all the time to be able to vent or to be able to, you know what I mean, let somebody know, hey, look, I feel this certain type of way, and somebody not look at you and say, hey, well, look, you a punk or whatever the case may be.
Okay, so um, Willie Pipkin said, to my point, you killed the frustration with humility and love. Great advice. Now to what you said, we get ready to unpack that. That was great. Like again, this is why I'm doing this, to expose these things that people don't hear all the time about what's going on in our community. So now I hear you, and I've heard several other Black men talk about how they have gone to counseling, gone to therapy, gone to parenting classes, sought out help. And I mean, I just think that is so important. And I, again, appreciate you sitting here and being vulnerable with us about that. And I think the more that men hear that, then the more men who will be like, if they've been considering that, or if they've been feeling ways that were confusing to them or making them feel, mentally ill or whatever, that they can be like, hey, other people, because you guys hold it in, y'all don't talk about it. So now that,
Right.
people see like, oh, I know Tim, he's cool, he's a good guy. He went to counseling, he went to
Right.
therapy. Yo, maybe I need to check that out. Like it's happening, and it was beneficial. And he painted a very vivid picture for us as to how it was beneficial, and said it was like detoxification. So I that is so powerful to hear that coming from a Black man. So again, thank you for that level of
Absolutely.
vulnerability. And let's make this let's make sure we're certain with this. So you mean you sought out professional counseling?
Absolutely.
All right. All right.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Was your counselor male, female, black, white, purple?
Male, black male. He was a black male. Um, I didn't pick the counselor. Um, he was a black male, and the truthfully be honest, I was a little reluctant. I'm gonna tell you, it was kind of like an Antoine Fisher moment. You know what I mean? If you remember Antoine Fisher, when he initially got in there, he didn't want to say nothing. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want to say nothing because in my head, I'm like, man, I ain't crazy. I don't need this right here. Even though I voluntarily signed up for it. But as we engaged each other, um, being able to because he also shared, you know what I mean, some of his story as well. And I think that was the biggest thing was he was like, man, listen, don't think because I'm sitting at this, at this desk or whatever the case may be that I'm perfect. You know what I mean? Or that, I got, that life is figured out for me or whatever the case may be. And he shared some of his story and he shared and as I shared some of my story with him, he literally he literally punched me in my face with some of the things that he said. You know what I mean? With some, I'm talking about to the point where if me and him was on the street, we would have been fighting. Because of some of the stuff, like
That
the way that
mirror
he,
that
the way,
yeah.
right, right. It was a lot of stuff that I didn't want to deal with. But he was like, look at it this way, and this is what it is. And I was like, man, don't you? I was saying it inside, I was like, man, don't say that, man. Man, you gonna have some
That
issues after
fireplace
this.
was
Like
coming
you,
out of you.
Yeah, I was like, yo, don't do that, bro. But it was really, it was good. You know what I mean? Because it literally, it made me sit down and think and say, you know what, he right. And I think the biggest thing was he was trying to get me to think differently than what I was trained to think. And I think that was the biggest thing in the world. You know what I mean? Was trying to get me to think outside of the context of my environment and the way that I've grown up, to think differently and everything. And, it was stuff that he shared about, when it came down to my kids, when it came, especially like with my daughter, whatever the case may be, it was stuff that he shared. And he was like, listen, as they get older, you you can't force anything. You can only give advice. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of the times, especially as males, we want to force things and not understand that, listen, when they get to be 15, 16, 17, they're growing into adulthood. The only thing that you can do is advise them. You know what I mean? You can't necessarily force them to do anything at that point. You know what I mean? And you have to be willing to accept the fact that at that point, they're kind of on their own and going to make their own decisions, and they got to live by those decisions as well. So it definitely, it was great. It was great.
Wow. So again, that's really powerful. That is going to resonate with a lot of people. Again, I just appreciate you and all the men for being open and sharing your story like that. It's just so beneficial. Like, and for allowing me to get all up in your business and and you guys to do that. Um, it's just
Absolutely.
really good because people think that these conversations are just gonna benefit men, but it's really good for women
No,
to hear this as well. And then, like I said, I'm an advocate for the Black community, so that's Black man, woman, child, the family, individuals, or whatever. And we can't do this without each other, So it's
absolutely.
good to hear that my brothers are evolving in this way and doing self-care and being concerned about how you guys interact with your children and the world. One question I'm gonna sneak in there since you said all of this, because this
Go
wasn't
ahead.
the way that I was going, and we're about to run out of time, but I'm gonna ask, since you said that, I'm just kind of backing up a little bit, and I had a person to ask me, someone who's been watching all these videos, and they suggested this question as well. Did having a daughter um impact the way that you view and interact with women in any kind of way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, with having a daughter, the thing is, I know when my daughter was born, it was it was kind of more or less one of those things that, like I said, I just looked at women totally different. So it was like, you can't be you can't you can't do everything, or you can't carry women the same way that you possibly carry them, that I possibly carried them before I had my daughter. So I may have, kind of played the field or whatever the case may be, but after having my daughter, it was kind of one of those things where it was like, okay, this ain't, you know what I mean? This is a serious situation now. So it's kind of more or less one of those things where it's like, you got to be accountable for what you do, and being accountable for what you do, it makes you change your perspective on everything. You know what I mean? So I didn't look at, women as like a, more or less like a playground, or let me try to get this one, or let me try to get that one, or whatever the case may be. It was more or less one of those things where I'm dating with a purpose. You know what I mean? So anybody that I dated, it was more or less with a purpose, because I have a child now. So it ain't just, if it's just not freelance. It's a totally different purpose, because, this person has to be somebody serious, because I have a daughter. So it was, and you don't let everybody around your kids or whatever the case may be. So it just allowed for me to mature a little bit and see women totally different because I had a daughter.
Okay. Thank you. And I think the person who wanted that question is watching. I think that was a great answer. So I'm gonna go on to the last question. And the last question, granted, this society tries to say that black men are the poster children of not taking care of their kids. That's not the truth. Statistics, real statistics, have shown that that's not the truth. But you have absentee fathers in all races and ethnicities. But we're focusing on the black community right now. And so we've
Absolutely.
talked to present fathers, and that's plentiful. But to speak to this, what do you believe that black men can do to help end the cycle of fatherlessness within our communities?
Um, I think one of the biggest things is, like I said before, just step up to the plate, and take care of your responsibility. I think, and understand that, that it's your responsibility to kind of step up to the plate and do your due diligence, for your kids. But I also think that us as men, I think that we need to start putting each other, we number one, we need to hold each other accountable. I think that's another thing. We definitely need to hold each other accountable. I know for myself, the cats that I hang with, like the guys that I call my friends or whatever the case may be can check me just like I can check them. So if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, then they're gonna hear from me. Just like if I won't doing what I was supposed to do, you know what I mean? They're gonna check me or whatever the case may be. So I think holding each other accountable and stop making excuses, because there is no excuse. At the end of the day, there is no excuse to say, you know what I mean, I'm not taking care of my kid. And I'm not just talking about money, because I think a lot of the time, and I think as men, we got to stop making taking care of your kid just based off of money, men and women. Because it's not just solely about money. The biggest thing that I've done for my kids is spent time. They ain't gonna remember, not now, they will never remember a dollar spent. They won't remember any of that stuff, but they'll remember, hey, dad was at my basketball game, hey, dad was at my recital, or whatever the case may be. So I think, making sure that you know we're accountable for that. But I think also, as black men, we put a lot of emphasis on ignorance as well. And I think that we got to stop that as black men and we got to start stop putting the emphasis on the cats that ain't doing what they supposed to do, and start holding up those guys that are. So the guys that are doing something, let's go ahead and shout them out. Let's go ahead and give them a high five. Let's go ahead and have a dinner for them cats. You know what I mean? Because they're doing what they're supposed to do. Not saying that they need a cheerleader or whatever the case may be, but we can't, the same way that we'll hold up, our favorite football team, or a rapper or whatever the case may be. We need to start holding up some of these local cats, you know what I mean, that's doing what they're supposed to do in the community. You know what I mean? By raising their kids. Let's start putting those cats on pedestals and saying, you know what, big ups. Like when Showtime was on the jump, especially since me and him come from Moore, both of us graduated from Moore High School. It was good to see him, you know what I mean, talking about the stuff. So it was like I'm gonna tune in the whole time for all of the cats, but especially for him, because I know him. You know what I mean? So it's like these are the cats that we need to start putting up on these pedestals and start, illuminating these guys instead of the negative ones that we are illuminating.
Let's unpack that one. Okay. So that takes
Come
controlling
on
our
now.
narrative to another level. And I really like what you said there, because a lot of times in our community, we focus on the wrong things. We focus on how people are dressed. We focus on celebrities.
Right.
Like you said, it's a lot of, what, and cool if you like sports or whatever. I'm not getting on anybody for that, but we need to be more present with what's like, as much attention as we're giving to that. Let's give more to these things that we're talking about. So if that begins to happen with what you said, then people will strive to be a great father before they strive to be, oh my god, I'm so bad with the new generation. Like one of the Lils or the Youngs, you know, the I don't know who, somebody
Right.
Lil Yachty, Lil something like, I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like, or the people
Right.
on Love and Hip Hop and all that stuff. If we create the standards of our community. So I love what you said. So I've been giving out challenges. So I'm gonna give you a
I
challenge. I am giving you a
got
challenge.
you.
And actually the first challenge that I gave out yesterday to Sean, I'm gonna go back and address that. He actually already did what we discussed, what his challenge was. He dropped the comment because you got to come
Good.
back and drop the
Big up.
comment in the video by July 1st. So I
Right.
challenge you within your circle of fathers, or even going outside of it with some men who are fathers, where you guys come up with a way to do exactly what you said. So if you guys do a phone call, if you guys do a meeting, if you guys create a Facebook group, but something that shows, or if you just, when y'all normally convene, that you say, you know
Right.
what, right now we're gonna take a minute and we're gonna shout out, Mike for, doing whatever with his sons, and we're gonna but you come up with a thing that you're gonna do, and you continuously do it. So even if you just make a point with these men, when they say, who gonna check me, boo, and you just said your friends are, they y'all check each other. So then that y'all also say, build each other up like that, and then pass it on. However you cultivate that, but that's your challenge, and you got to drop the comment by July 1st and tell me that you started it. Do you
No
accept this
problem. No
challenge?
problem at all. I definitely greatly accept this challenge.
All right,
I
high five
accept it
over the.
completely.
Yeah. Awesome, awesome. Well, I
Absolutely.
want to thank you. Well, no, did you have anything else you want to say? Because I've been asking all the questions. You got anything you want to say?
Um, I think I think one of the biggest one of the biggest things is as men, we can definitely change the narrative in our communities, in our household communities, or wherever the case may be. And I think my man Willie Pipkin, one of
He is
my
going in.
homeboys,
He is
he
going
said it.
in. Yes.
Yeah, that's my man. And I think one of the biggest things is that we have to do a better job of protecting our black women as well.
We need
And
y'all.
stepping up.
We need y'all.
Right. But I also in the same context, y'all have to be willing to receive it as well. You know what I mean? But we have to do a better. We have to set a better standard of protecting and lifting up. You know what I mean? Women as the queens that y'all what I mean are supposed to be. So I think that's the one like he said, that's one of the biggest things that we need to start doing. But like I said, also for women as well, y'all can do the same, have a better standard for us, because one of the biggest things is it, like you said, accountability. A lot of these kids out here wearing their pants off their hind parts or whatever the case may be. And the thing that we got to understand is that's not a part of our culture. You know what I mean? And we shouldn't accept it as a part of our culture. Just because it's allowed doesn't mean that it's acceptable. And I think that we got to get outside of, you know what I mean, allowing junk or unproductive stuff, you know what I mean, for our people, in order for us to to continuously grow and to have a better standard, you know what I mean, in the family context, just in the family context. So like I said, just lifting each other up, you know what I mean. If you see a woman out there struggling, I, you know, go and help if you can help. But like I said, women got to be acceptable to receive help too, because there's a lot of women, oh, I can do this by myself and I don't need your help. And every dude ain't trying to holler at you. You know what I mean? Some dudes just genuinely want to help, and without any, you know what I mean, without anything coming on the backside, you know what I mean, of it. So I think at the end of the day, we got to start seeing each other better than what the media and everybody else portrays us as. And as we start to see each other better and start to see each other as brothers, sisters, queens, kings, whatever you want to call it, then we can, you know what I mean, make a better effort to start building our communities back the way that they need to be built.
More jewels you just dropped. I mean, strong J, sexual chocolate. I dropped the. I don't, I don't have anything else to say. You kind of ran my mind with the last little portion there. And I think to what you said earlier, there are some people who are more ready to receive that than others. So let's start
Right,
there and then work our way
right,
out and be an example.
right.
A lot of people are dealing with pain. And to a lot of people, what
Oh
you
yeah,
just said and some of the things that I said are so foreign because they have so much pain and trickery that they've been exposed to. But we'll start with the people who are ready for it, and we'll move outward with it with the understanding that everybody won't be able to receive it, but we can create a
right,
movement and we'll keep going. So I think
right.
that's really really powerful what you said. I appreciate that. I think this has been inspiring for black men and black women. So thank you so much for taking the time out to have this conversation and for sneaking away from daddy duty for a little over an hour. And thank you to
Yeah.
everybody who tuned in, who watched, and who submitted comments. We appreciate that. And I just want to remind you guys, you can go
Absolutely.
back to my page. Timothy is the sixth of eight fathers with the interviews that I've done. So if you can see it or if you want to add me, you can go back and look at those interviews. And then tomorrow at 3 p.m., I'll be interviewing wise, intelligent of poor righteous teachers. And then at 6:30 p.m., the last dad will be Eddie Fairley. So be sure to tune in to those. And thanks again, Tim. You have a wonderful evening, and we'll have to
Thank you.
continue this some other time. We'll do a part two of this, and I'll be looking for
Right.
your challenge comment by July 1st. Right?
July 1st.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
Absolutely.
okay.
Thank you, Star.
You're welcome. You have a great evening.
All right, you too.
Thanks. Bye. Peace, y'all.